In other words, people are just adjusting. During times like this is where you can use your dry powder of money. You have to be more scrappy. The ones who aren't scrappy aren't going to survive. What will happen is your competition will, and they'll start taking your market share.
All right, we're going to talk about the Great Reset. We're all, in a sense, resetting from basically all the changes that happened during the pandemic. And so we are now resetting back to our roots, and we wanted to talk about what that Great Reset actually means and how you can apply that to your business.
Yeah, right now what we're seeing is a lot of companies during COVID expanded quicker than they expected. And the main reason being is no one expected such a big boom in things transforming more digitally or online. So it caused a lot of businesses to hire. Well, a lot of businesses, including ours and many others like the Googles, the Facebooks, etc., none of us understood or knew how long this would last or not last, or if we would keep going, or if things would go back to normal. And none of us predicted A, high inflation, and B, the Fed's raising rates so much that it's slowing down certain sectors. It's not necessarily slowing down things like travel. People are still traveling like crazy. Keep in mind, during COVID, a lot of people didn't really travel, so maybe they're making up for it, if you want to call it. But a lot of other sectors, they're going back. And the main reason being is when you have interest rates rising at a very rapid pace, a lot of companies use debt to grow. A lot of companies are publicly traded. Their numbers get hit. So what do they have to do with higher payments? They got to end up cutting fat, laying off, doing different things in their business to make sure that they're healthy. In other words, people are just adjusting, and I wouldn't necessarily say they're downsizing, but they're adjusting their size to be the right fit for the market. Some of that may not be adjusting your employee count, but that could be reducing tech stacks and using AI, or it could just be getting rid of certain divisions and business models that may not be producing revenue, but just be cost centers and shifting budgets to something else. But we're seeing this across the board, not just with enterprise companies, but Eric and I are seeing it with a lot of SMBs and mid-sized businesses as well, especially in our friend circle. We have a lot of friends who have quote unquote multi-billion dollar companies, as well as companies in the $100+ million range. And we say multi-billion, we're not talking about unicorns from a venture standpoint if someone just has $1 billion valuation. We're talking about multi-billion dollar companies based on revenue and EBITDA.
Yep. What I'll add here is that it doesn't matter if the company's doing well right now, or again, if the company is doing poorly. We're all resetting in a sense because we're going back to what used to work. And so instead of saying, oh, everyone is used to this remote work policy, if what worked for a company before was staying 5 days in office, go do that. If remote worked really well for you, go do that. But the point of the reset is, hey, we're going to reset back to what worked for us and what worked for our culture, and screw what everyone else in the public says. You're paying for Basecamp, you're paying for Asana, you're paying for ClickUp, you're paying for like 10 different project management tools, and none of them are being used, and yet you're spending 8 figures a year in software. How did this happen? Because discipline was lost, and now it's time to reset that discipline.
Yeah, we all have to be more scrappy, whether it's in your marketing or operations. You have to be more scrappy. The ones who aren't scrappy aren't going to survive. It doesn't matter even if you have profit, you still need to be scrappy because during times like this is where you can use your dry powder or money to expand and find better opportunities. And B, if you're not going out there and you're not being smart with your money, what will happen is your competition will, and they'll start taking your market share. And that's what we see. Is it's like, just because your company is doing well doesn't mean it can't be doing better. And just because things are great or good for you, and I know that's not the majority of people out there, but you shouldn't have the mentality of, oh, everything's fine and dandy and peachy. It's very few times in our lifetimes do we see opportunities where you can pick up companies for cheap, or you can take more market share, or you can do creative deals. And if you're not wise with your cash, you won't be able to seize those opportunities.
Now, if you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'm here to answer them and help you out. If you enjoyed the video, like it, share it, tell people about it. Thank you very much.